afternoon, everybody. MG here, MG Covers, bringing you a brand new handicapping video, part 3 of our NFL handicapping series, How to Handicap the NFL, part 3, Fading the Public. This is a very interesting video. You're going to learn a lot in this video. If you haven't watched parts 1 and 2, you can still watch this one first, but I encourage you to go back and watch parts 1 and parts 2 as well, just to give you better insight as to what's going on. So let's talk about fading the public. All right, why fade the public? There's several reasons why. We're going to kind of go through these just to give you an overview. We'll start with the first one. More times than not, the public is wrong. That's why you've often heard the saying, the majority of people that wager on sports lose. That is a fact. So understanding that fact, if you go in the opposite direction of the public, that is a smarter way to play. And because, going on to the second one here, because the public is usually wrong, value would be in the opposite direction. And we're going to give you an example of that right now. So the Patriots, let's say before the line comes out, the Patriots are a very popular team. They're a good team. However, they're perceived as a safe bet. So the sports books know this. So what they do is they inflate that line. The sports book term for that is shade it, which means they make them more of a favorite than they should be. So this example here, Patriots probably should be minus 14 in a game, but the sports books will add money to that because they know that the majority of people are going to put money down on the Patriots. So if you play the Patriots at minus 21, you are overpaying for that when they should only be probably minus 14. So realizing that, the value is in the other direction. So play the dog at plus 21. Why? Because the dog should be about a plus 14, but because they've inflated and shaded the line to the Patriots side, instead of getting 14 points, you're now getting 21 points. And that fourth point there basically sums up what I just said. You give up more points and value playing the side with the public. However, you get more points and value playing opposite the public. All right, now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through weeks 1 and 2 of the NFL this season, 2019, and we're going to look at fading the public when the ticket count moves to 57% or more. Now, let me explain this real quick. There's a lot of sports services you can subscribe to. Don Best, you can Vegas Insider, Sportsbook Review, which is what I'm going to use today. And they will show you what percentage of tickets are on which team. And the reason this is important, and the reason I'm using the 57%, when you're looking at a game and say the game says 51% Dallas Cowboys, 49% Washington Redskins, the interpretation of that means that there is sharp money on both sides. So neither Dallas is a public team nor Washington is a public team, or it's hard to decipher. So it's when it's even money like that, meaning like 51, 52, or even like say 53 and 47%, that means you're getting sharp money on both sides. You really can't say that's a public play. But now when you see a line where 57% of the tickets are on a team, that is what I call a public team. That means the majority of tickets are on that team. So going back to the point I made earlier, that means the value is going to be on the opposite side, meaning you're getting more points, more value going in the opposite direction of the public. So to distinguish between just an ordinary line and a public line, we put these rules in place. So when the ticket count moves to 57%, we can assume that is a public team. And our second rule is we're not going to play favorites minus 14 and over in the NFL, because you give a team 14 points, just about even a bad team is going to come damn close to covering that. So that's one rule we're going to put into place as we go through this. So, and once I start to go through this, it will make a lot of sense to you guys. All right, so we're going to look at NFL season 2019. This is the week one. This is the very first, and I'm just showing the games that fit that criteria. So Baltimore, Miami. You can see here, Baltimore, 68% of the tickets were on Baltimore, and they were -7. Opened at 6.5, went to 7. It's because a lot of people were playing Baltimore, and only 32% of the tickets were on Miami. So the public, obviously, this situation, Baltimore was a public team, so if we followed the rules, we would play Miami, and that would be a loss. Now, I want to hopefully understand this because I'm going to go through all the rest of these pretty quickly because it gets redundant after a little while. But in essence, so you have majority of the tickets, just to review, were on Baltimore. So it's clear that Baltimore was the public team, so that means the value is going on the Miami side. So actually the line moved a half point in this situation. And generally you don't see a lot of line movement in week one because there's just not a lot of statistical data. They keep the lines pretty tight here. And as you know, it turned out that Miami's not that good. So if this game if they could go back, knowing what they know now, this line would be a lot different. But in any event, this was a loss per the rules. All right, next game we had the Rams. There's our rule, 57%. That means we play Carolina. Real close game. It opened at 2.5. Ended up Carolina plus 1.5. That would have been a loss as well. Next game, we're going to pick up our first win here. 62% of the general public on Seattle. And this is a classic example of fading the public here. That line was +9. And it's almost like, even though there was no line movement, the odds makers knew they were going to get a ton of action on Seattle. So in order to try to even the book, so to speak, they opened up with a Seattle -9, so that therefore made it Cincinnati +9. Vegas won big on this one. Again, 62% on Seattle. That means we play Cincinnati, and that would have been a win. Next game, Indianapolis Chargers. Indianapolis was the dog +6, had 58%. Tickets were on Chargers, so this would have been an Indianapolis play, and this would have been a push. So far 1-2. Continuing on, Detroit, Arizona, 57% of the public on Detroit. So the play would have been on Arizona, and this was a tie. So +2.5, that would have been a winner. All right, Houston, New Orleans, 59% on Houston. And if we'd have played New Orleans, -6.5, that would have been a loss. Next game, Denver, 58% of the general public on Denver. So we play Oakland +3, and that is a winner. Now, if you watch the very first NFL, and I'm going to bring this into play at the end of this video. If you notice, Oakland won. They were +3. In this particular situation, we would play Oakland on the money line and not the spread line. But anyway, so moving along, week two continued here. We got Tampa Bay, Carolina, 59% on Carolina. And again, just to make a note about lines, it's all about public perception. This was early in the season. Carolina was perceived by the general public as being the better team in Tampa. So the odds makers don't necessarily set a line the way I would set a line. They set the line based on how they feel people are going to wager on this game. And they actually guessed correctly in this situation because they knew Carolina would be heavily betted, and they were at 59%. However, Tampa Bay actually pulled off the upset and won this one. Next game, Chargers and Detroit, 59% on the Chargers. So that means we play Detroit, and that would have been a winner. Next game, Dallas, 65%. We're on Dallas at -6.5. That means we play Washington. That was a loss. Next game, Jacksonville, Houston. I actually wagered this game. Jacksonville came back late in this one. 62% were on Jacksonville. So that means we play Houston -7, and that was a loss also. Week two continues. Seattle, Pittsburgh. Again, this is another good example of public perception. Pittsburgh is also a very popular football team. 59% of the general public were playing Pittsburgh, in this game, so that means we play Seattle, and that would have been a winner outright. Next game, San Francisco, Cincinnati, 60% on Cincinnati. That means we play San Francisco. They won that one very convincingly. Next game, Kansas City, Oakland. Opened up at -10, went all the way down to -6.5. Kansas City, 60% of the money, so we play Oakland. That would have been a loss. And finally, our last game, I think this is the Monday night game or Sunday night game? Monday night game. Cleveland, 57% of the tickets. That means we play the Jets, and that would have been a loss. So let's look at the combined records for weeks 1 and 2. 7-7, 50%. Now, if you're watching this video, you say, well, 7-7, that's only 50%. I'm not that impressed. Well, the point is there was no handicap. We did absolutely no handicapping. We just implemented 2 rules, and we were able to get to 50%. There's stat models that people come up with, or just, there's even good handicappers that can't even get to 50% in NFL. So just implementing 2 simple rules with no handicapping whatsoever, we get to 50%. That is impressive. And it's all, predicated on fading the public at a high number. So one tweak we're going to make to this, just to kind of go a little bit further. And if you watched the first NFL Part 1 or Part 2, you will understand this. 5 of these teams won outright. And let's say if we had wagered the money line, Oakland plus 140 was a winner. Tampa, when they beat Carolina, they won on the money line at plus 248. That was a huge one. Detroit plus 102. Seattle won when they beat Pittsburgh plus 175. San Francisco plus 102. Now, so instead of playing the spread and paying the juice, in this situation we would play no juice and we would win on the dog line, money line, so we would end up 7-7, up 0.67 units. Again, no handicapping or anything, just learning and understanding numbers. That's why I tell you guys, to be successful in this business, you have to understand numbers. Now, if we take this a step further, if we would go back and look at a lot of these games, the Dallas-Washington game, I can tell you right now, there's no way a sharp would have played Washington in that game. The Kansas City-Oakland game, there's no way we would have played Oakland, even though it fit the criteria in just this example I was using. But the point I'm making is just fading the public being smart, you can get to 50% with a little bit of tweaking and being smart and maybe coming up with a stat model, finding some angles and doing some more research and reading. You could probably get this to the point to where you're getting over, 53% to where you can actually make money. So hopefully this helped. Again, remember, just to sort of reviewing this, it's if the money is divided, if the tickets are divided where it's 52 to 48 or 51 to 49, that means you got sharp money on both sides. So it's hard to really say if it's a public team. When it gets up to like 57, 58, or you'll see sometimes 68% of the general public's playing tickets are on that team, that is definitely a public team. And it doesn't mean every time that scenario comes up, you should go against the public. I just use this for illustration and just as an example to help you get better at handicapping. So if you're constantly losing, you could just implement this method and get to 50% pretty easily. Now, I didn't test it. I didn't back test this, but it would probably be close to that number, just using those 2 rules. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of that. If you've got any questions, you can always send me an email. And as always, if you want to subscribe to our services, you can get all my picks for all sports, $49.95 a month. You can get power rankings for all my sports, $19.95 a month. And if you want to learn this business in greater detail, you can be part of our VIP members, which is professional handicapping coaching for $99.95 per month. As always, like this video, subscribe. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below, and hope everybody has another profitable week. Talk to you soon. Peace.